I want to begin with these three questions. What is the why, the what's, and the who of the Integral Ministry? President and CEO, Reverend Shad Groveland, is going around the country promoting his Power of Focus Ministry workshop, and he has as a foundation to that presentation inviting churches and ministry leaders to answer these questions. What is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? So what is the why of integral ministry? And what is integral ministry? And who is integral ministry for? Here's what I want to share as the why. And it's just a group of pictures that has a felt sense of what might be considered the why. And so as you look at these images and what they invoke, you can probably sense the overwhelm or the confusion or the uncertainty or the not enough or the conflict. So many of you know that I've been in a Unity for a long, long time. I've been on the board of trustees of the Association of Unity Churches. I've been a staff member of the Association of Unity Churches at the time as Director of Peacemaking Services. And over those years, while the things that I had developed and created that became the systems that currently are used to support churches either in transition or in conflict, I have abandoned all of those systems because in my experience, there's no fixing our current ministry practice. It's got too many challenges. It's embedded in family system dynamics. Our tithing funding model is insufficient, along with the pandemic and all of the trends that we all are familiar with. It's a challenge for ministry to be fun, exciting, productive, and meaningful, and making a difference in our world. And so when our experience in ministry is all about survival, we're not on purpose anymore. In my career as a Unity minister, it's been my calling to seek to develop an alternative to our current challenge in ministry. As many of you have been following Shad's work and his ministry pillars, that has been part of his Power of Focus Ministry program, includes integral ministry as a core fundamental foundation of what we're trying to bring forth that actually embraces the disruptions of the world. As many of you know, Jane and I served Unity Spiritual Center in Spokane, Washington, for nearly 6 years, where we actually pioneered this ministry model. In addition to that, over those years, I've acquired several coaching clients, including such ministries as Reverend James Trapp's church in Sacramento, California. I worked with him in his ministry for 5 years. Unity Church of Hawaii, where Denise Schnelik was the transition minister. She was there for 3 years as a transition minister, and I've worked with that ministry for nearly 4 years now. Reverend Monica Driscoll, who's a transition minister, she has been working with her ministry for 3 or 4 years now. I've been working with them. And Tustin, California. And so based upon our experience in Spokane and the successes of our coaching clients that have been replicating the things that we've established as the core components of the Integral Ministry program, this whole certificate program has a lot of practical foundational experiences that are evidence of its effectiveness and efficacy. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Jane, who is going to be talking about the what. What is integral ministry?
The what? Well, as you can see from this slide, we're all about waking up, growing up, cleaning up, and showing up. And we have dubbed these 4 arenas as the pillars of integral ministry. So we're talking about awakening to a greater dimension within. We're talking about growing, developing, evolving, while cleaning up our past, integrating shadow material from the past, and then being the change, embodying the change that we're seeking to experience in the world. Now, Ken Wilber points out that in the past, spiritual communities focused on mainly two of these pillars: waking up, maybe through meditation, studying the mystics, following the teachings of awakened souls, and then perhaps also showing up, getting out into the world, making it a better place through service of some kind. And the growing up and cleaning up quadrants have been in the psychological domain of personal development and shadow integration. And he suggests that integral spirituality needs to bring these paths together. That we need to be about all of this, and rather than just a portion of it. And so with that as our guide, many of the required books address aspects of these pillars. Some are more theoretical, like Ken Wilber's Theory of Everything. Some are more about leadership and organizational change, the 15 commitments of conscious leadership, reinventing organizations. Some are more experiential, like radical wholeness. Some are all three: the emerging church, being the beloved community. They all have a piece of the puzzle in our work. And we are lucky enough to have some guest luminaries visiting our classroom throughout quarters 2, 3, and 4. Some of them are the authors of these required books. Ken Wilber, who wrote Theory of Everything, he comes to visit us. Dr. Jim Lockhart, who is a CSL minister and the author of Being the Beloved Community, he joins us. Cindy Wigglesworth, who wrote the book 21 Skills of Spiritual Intelligence, comes to see us. And a spiritual intelligence assessment is included in this course for every student. We go through her practice that she does, and when she comes to visit, she really explains it all to us. Great work she's doing. Then there's Reverend Paul Smith, who's the author of Integral Christianity, and so we study his book, and then we have him come and share with us as well. And then Mendy Odlin, who is the originator of spirit groups, comes to talk about that, which this program is now a program of Unity Worldwide Ministries. But she gives us the background of it and the foundational understanding of why we do it and what it is. Very helpful. So I'll take a breath here. And what I want to say to you is that from the learning objectives that we have set to the practical assignments that are part of this, to the required reading, the books, to the guests who are really shower us with their wisdom, the design of this course is aimed at these competencies, as you can see on your screen. These are the competencies that we are aiming to help people develop. And so you'll see some of these above the line functionality. It's tied right into the book, The 15 Commitments. Becoming comfortable with paradox, that is not a small thing. And it's really part of learning to follow that path where, cultural change is happening and there's something new emerging. And how do we do that? How do we allow that rather than trying to predict, control, force change? You can see this is kind of the work that we're aiming for, is to help us all develop these competencies in various modes and levels. But that's really the aim of this, is to help us all really learn what it is that we're here to learn, to grow into, in order to help to bring forth this new paradigm of ministry as well as cultural paradigm shifts.
We want to kind of be clear that this program is not for everybody, because it is clearly something that is, people ask, well, where is this being done elsewhere? They want to know that if it's proven or not. One of the principles that we work with in the certificate program, where we're actually teaching participants how to implement the program, is that we don't try to do the heavy lifting of lifting the entire community up into a different state of being, because what we're really trying to do is evolve culture and consciousness. And culture does not evolve just by making an announcement and saying, from now on, we're not going to do it this way, we're going to do it this way. So there has to be cultural tipping points that get created over time for the entire community to shift into a different way of being, a different ministry practice. And so in order to cultivate these shifts over time, we work with a specific principle, and that is working with early adopters. So here's a picture of a bell curve, and the principle of the bell curve is that in any large sample, you have a majority of folks that appear to be on either side of one standard deviation. So for instance, in the established culture that's illustrated in this slide, the majority of people occupy either the early majority or the late majority. The early majority are those that are practical, they're pragmatic. The late majority are those that are skeptical. They have, they hesitate. And so when we try to do the heavy lifting of moving the entire community, we get stuck. We get stuck at those who want to have all their questions answered in order for it to be practical for them. And the skeptics just dig in because they want things to stay the same or go back to the good old days. And so we make the mistake of trying to focus on the established core as opposed to working the principle of focusing on the early adopters. And so obviously it takes innovation to create something new, but yet it takes the early adopters to demonstrate its efficacy, its capacity to matter. And then once the early adopters have accomplished that, the early majority is all over it. They don't want to be left out. And then that becomes the tipping point when we have that larger majority of the early adopters and the early majority, then the whole organization can shift. And so the focus of this program is also on the early adopters, because those are going to be the individuals that take this program well beyond what Jan and I have conceived its capacity to be and to matter for our New Thought movement. But it's obvious that we can become early adopters by a circumstance sometimes, by necessity sometimes, because the reality is that our current ministry practice has an expiration date. So Jane and I are committed to, after you go through the program, then we're going to have monthly online Zoom sessions that there will be no cost, that supports your implementation and your work in bringing these principles into expression in the arena and under the venue that you are in ministry for. And the whole program is delivered online. We've often had people say, well, I'm fixing to take a sabbatical right in the middle of this, or I'm going on vacation or whatever. And we want to explain to you that we have accommodated all those instances because of the nature of our program. And Jan, I would like you to talk about why our program is so easily accommodating those who have occasional absences.
One of the reasons is that the homework consists of watching some videos prior to our meeting and doing the reading assignments and answering the questions. And so the work is done prior to our meeting, and the meeting talks more about debriefing the work. And then if there's something experiential we're doing, we do it during that time. So it's not like we're doing lecturettes in real time with people, that sort of thing. We chunk it, so it really is set up for people to participate, whether they're in their home or not. I mean, the fact that it's online, you can get online anywhere that you can do that. You can be a part of it.
The certificate program is a year-long program. It's divided into 4 10-week quarters, and each week is a 2-hour module. you'll have probably an additional 2 or 3 hours of homework or reading assignments or videos to watch. And then you come prepared, having done assignments and submitted assignments, to debrief the work that you've done.
Yeah, so I'll just add something here, and that is that in our program, we have ministers, we have licensed teachers, we have board members, we have lay leaders, we have the whole spectrum. So you don't have to be a minister, you don't have to be one of the other. Everybody brings their gifts to the table. It's not just focused on ministers only. Sometimes that we get that where it's like, you know, this is for how ministers can change the world. No, it's about how all of us in our role, whatever that is, can adopt and embody this change. You know, the wake up, grow up, clean up, show up is also undergirds that transformation. It's all got to be in there. If we're not doing the awakening work, the deepening of our understanding of who we are, if we're not doing the developmental aspect of this, where we're growing and evolving, if our, you know, and if that's just not happening, or if we're not dealing with our past stuff and it's still tripping us up everywhere, and if we're not actually being the change we're seeking in the world, if any one of those things is missing, it will kind of, we'll be limping along in trying to help the world to become a better place. Than, I don't know about you, but when I look at what's happening in our world, I really see the value of this and the need for it, for all of us to be on board and to be practicing this stuff and learning how to be the change.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. So grateful that you're here.